we begin this Sunday morning with an historic battle for the Speaker of the House of Representatives. An extraordinary 5-day fight, not seen since the mid-19th century, ended this weekend when California Congressman Kevin McCarthy was elected Speaker of the House in the 15th round of voting.
That was easy, huh? I never thought we'd get up here.
McCarthy took several blows on the way to obtaining the necessary votes to win, but ultimately flipped several members in the 13th and 14th rounds, even as at one point Florida Representative Byron Donalds emerged as an alternative to McCarthy, gaining 20 votes himself to potential speaker. Congressman Donalds flipped back to McCarthy after reaching a deal to verify his promises. They include a balanced budget within 10 years and a vote on term limits for all House members, among others. Joining me right now is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds himself. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Good to see you, Maria. Good morning to everybody.
So at one point, you went against McCarthy. Another point, you were voting for somebody else, and then seeing people voting for you for Speaker. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, I mean, look, first and foremost, I'm frankly just happy that it's all over with and we got something transformational and sound for the American people, and really to help the House of Representatives once again become the people's house. Now, to the mechanics, yeah, early on, I gave Kevin the benefit of the doubt, but it came pretty quickly clear to me that we were getting nowhere. And so at that point, it was saying, okay, how long is this going to go? What's this going to play out like? And so it was really about trying to make sure that we could get people to the table in order to construct a framework that everybody in our conference can get behind. And I think what has been released and what people are seeing now is one of the most transformative reshuffling in the people's house, actually giving all of the representatives of Congress, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, the ability to represent the voters that have sent them to Capitol Hill.
So Congressman, I mean, one of the most stunning changes in this rules that you all will adopt this week is the motion to vacate. One member to call a vote to motion to vacate Kevin McCarthy. So how long does he have? Is there still a chance that you'd like to be Speaker?
No, right now what we're going to do is make sure that our conference is together, the Republican conference, and making sure that we are focused on the job at hand. Secondarily, with respect to the motion to vacate, and I know this has been talked about a lot of voters are saying, what does this actually mean? Let me take a step back. Before the 116th Congress, Nancy Pelosi is the person that stripped the motion to vacate out of House rules. Republicans have said it's time for it to go back. And there is a negotiation around that because, again, if the people's house is truly to be the people's house, every member of Congress should have the ability to represent their district. So I don't think it's a big problem. There has to be accountability in our system of government, especially in the House of Representatives. And so that's why that was able to get negotiated back in, and we were able to land this plane, and now we're going to move on to the business of the American people.
What other concessions did Kevin McCarthy have to make? Tell me about these rules and whether or not we're going to see defections tomorrow when you try to adopt this package.
I don't anticipate defections tomorrow. I think everybody's going to, kind of take the weekend, day and a half that we have, and then look at these rules with a sound mind, and then we're going to go ahead and get them through. But, I mean, you're talking about actually strict observance of the 72-hour rule. The American people just saw what happened 2 weeks ago when the Democrats shoved through $1.7 trillion in an omnibus spending bill. Nobody had a chance to read it. We have firm commitments that any bill is going to be laid on the table for 72 hours. So not just the members of Congress, but the American people actually get to read it. The other is ending all of these crazy COVID mandates and the funding associated with them. We have rules on single subjects so that there's actually any bill, it has to go by that subject matter, and anything in the bill has to be germane to that topic. We don't want to see situations where a coin bill comes up and then all this language is shoved through that has nothing to do with the bill title. These things are critical to have a functioning republic and a functioning legislative branch, in Washington, D.C.
And now we know that there will be 12 separate appropriations bills instead of jamming everything in one package, which is interesting when you consider defense spending. This is one area that, our adversaries have been upping, and we have not been upping. Congressman, what did you get in Florida? Everybody got something, right? What did you get?
Well, listen, one of the things that's going to happen is it's been put out. I'm actually going to be a part of the Republican steering committee as Kevin McCarthy's designate. And part of that is going to be to make sure that the entire conference, the ideological spectrum, if you will, is represented through all committees. And I think this is important because what I've seen in my first 2 years in Washington and this is actually not Kevin's fault. This is the nature and the culture of Washington, D.C., is that the members are actually really separated from each other. They don't really get a chance to talk a lot and engage a lot unless they take specific interest to do. I think having more voices on more committees is actually going to help the Republican conference and Congress overall so we can clear up a lot of the misconceptions about policy ideas and political points so we can actually do the right thing by the American people through a truly deliberative process that is open and there's a lot of conversations going on. I think it's a great thing.
Well, congratulations to be on the steering committee. That's very important. I, frankly, was happy to see a vote to come on term limits because too many times we see politicians go to Washington and then they're there 30, 40, 50 years making $150,000, $175,000 a year, and then we learn that they are multi-millionaires. In some cases being bought by China, which takes me to the next question on investigations. What should we expect in terms of keeping the Chinese Communist Party at bay, in terms of keeping the Biden family accountable for the tens of millions of dollars we now know, because of evidence on the Biden laptop, that they took in from our biggest, most threatening adversary?
Well, listen, the speaker has been very clear about what's going to happen. He's been clear for quite some time. We're going to have a select committee just to investigate China and all the things that the CCP is doing to not only influence here in the United States, but also to take jobs away from Americans over the years. We're going to get to the bottom of that. Number two, I've been talking with Jim Jordan and James Comer. The investigations, not just into the FBI, the Department of Justice, obviously these people are seeing with the Twitter files and all that stuff, but also with what the Biden family has been doing for the last several years and its implications on the Biden domestic and international agenda. We're going to get all to the bottom of that. But one of the other things that was included in this rules package is a church committee that actually will go through the process of investigating the weaponization of the federal government. It was released in these Twitter files that one of the White House staffers actually sent messages to Twitter requesting that accounts be taken down. This is the type of stuff that must be investigated. We have to get to the bottom of it because if we're going to have a country of, by, and for the people, the federal government cannot be used as a tool to wield its own agenda against American citizens.
Well, I think you are spot on in terms of raising the Twitter files because this is a situation where the mainstream media refuses to report what has taken place. But you're talking about a task force of 80 FBI agents just solely focused on amplifying lies and suppressing truth. And we all would like to see some accountability there. If you find that there was actual evidence of wrongdoing, will you support impeaching Joe Biden?
Oh, that's something that will happen. But right now, what we want to do is get to the process of going through the investigations. Let me be very clear. What we witnessed when the Democrats were in control was that they picked a target, which was President Trump, and they did everything they could to try to damage him in any possible way. What Republicans are committing to do is going through the investigation process. We want the evidence to speak for itself. We want the American people to see that. And if the conclusions become clear that there are high crimes and misdemeanors that have been committed, then we'll be pushing forward with the next necessary course of action. But I don't want to make commitments to you today because we want the investigations to speak for themselves. We don't want to do what the Democrats did, which is weaponize the impeachment process for political purposes. We want to let the evidence speak for themselves. You have my commitment on that. And
real quick, you feel that you will have a unified membership? I mean, let's face it. Look what you all just went through. 15 rounds just to agree on a speaker. You almost had a fist fight. We understand in the chamber when you had Matt Gaetz and of course Rogers. Rogers go at him. I don't know how true that is.
Well, listen, 15 rounds actually sounds like the title for a good book. But here's what I will say about my conference. Yeah, there was high tensions in the room no doubt about it. Listen, we've never seen anything like this since before the Civil War. We were making history at the seat of our pants. But what's really happened here is the most deliberative process with respect to leadership in the House of Representatives. And what this means is our conference has been able to be stretched, tested. A lot of conversations were made. Some people who didn't really know what was happening have now starting to see what's been happening. I think we're going to be a stronger conference for it. I was having a lot of conversations with a lot of different members in the Republican conference. And this is going to make us better. It's going to make us stronger. We have a lot of work to do. We have a Biden administration that must be held accountable. Yep. Don't think for a second, Joe Biden, I didn't see your silly little border plan, because that is a joke. So we're going to get focused and we're going to get down to business. And I think this is going to make us a better conference overall.
Yeah, and Speaker McCarthy said he's going to do committee meetings at that border. We're following it. We've got Greg Abbott and Kari Lake coming up on this day that Joe Biden says he's going to El Paso. Congressman, we'll be watching all of that. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much, Maria. Anytime.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.